I want to say first, thank you so much to Professor Evans for having me here today. It's such a distinct honor to be among the black genius that is on this panel here. So it's an awe-inspiring experience. Certainly, when I first read The Souls of Black Folk, which was my first entrance into Du Bois at the age of 11, I didn't imagine that I'd be up here on a stage like this in this very special place. So I thank you for this opportunity. Of course, when I told my mom that last night, she said you didn't read Du Bois when you were 11, but she can't prove that, so we'll go with that story. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read a few prepared remarks, and then what I'd like to do if I have time is I'm going to riff a little bit, because Professor Evans and all of the folks who were up here on the panel had me a little shook, and they still do, so I want to make sure I get my ideas out and then riff on the back end. So as for Du Bois and education, of course, there are so many important directions in which we can travel in meaningfully digging on what Du Bois has written and has explained to us. As a personality psychologist who studies narratives and the variety of identity expression, I'm particularly interested first in the example that Du Bois demonstrates. His deep and thick work is education personified, and is an education that extends well beyond a simple notion of basic inventory or grading that has long since been settled upon across institutions of secondary and post-secondary education and beyond to determine one's educational worth. A Du Boisian education is one that is engaged with the world and that has charged with it the responsibility of pushing and pulling that world forward to better spaces. Du Bois says up top in The College-Bred Negro simply that the first duty of the social reformer is to know. The engaged, educated person, the educator, is given vivid illustration in The College-Bred Negro, a report that is comprised of data from some 34 colleges that educated black folk at the time, and the 73 predominantly all-white colleges that also served black folk. The data ranged from college curriculum to where these folks came from and explained virtually in real time where it was that they were going and were interested in going. The data provided the status of persons engaged and was particularly intriguing, aside from being the first of its kind, in that it was a study that saw the process of the movement of the Negro up from slavery. Education here demonstrated the want and the drive to realize a better self, whether through classical or theoretical study or through practical application. The data supports for us that fundamentally we do not come from a stock of low academic achievers or from those who are disconnected from society as contemporary assumptions and reports and studies would blatantly pathologize. Rather, the culture of the Negro is to be and is to become educated. This is my read of what these reports from the 5th and 6th conferences of the study of Negro problems in 1900 and 1901 tell us, to me in short, but of course I'm profoundly asset-based, positive, and affirmatively oriented. So the idea is, what do we do with the survey and the inventory data today? How do we continue that first duty that Du Bois charges to us as our responsibility to the college-bred Negro, to know? In response to this, I lean hard towards the Negro Common School by mashing up the college-bred Negro with present-day considerations of assessment, teaching, and learning. There's a report that will be made public in March of this year that attends not to the Negro problem explicitly, but that has built into it a solution paradigm within education that blots the color line, as Du Bois has written, by discussing the integrated ideals of education. It extends the fundamental need to know more broadly than just about the Negro, but is essentially informed by historical and present dilemmas of our education. The report is offered by the Gordon Commission on the Future of Assessment in Education. And the Commission is a collection of cutting-edge thinkers in the area of psychometrics and educational testing. And it was brought together over the past 2 years to offer views on the future of how it is that we teach, learn, and are assessed across the teaching and learning enterprise. Edmund W. Gordon, my mentor, my connection to Du Bois, a 91-year-old student of Du Bois's, an emeritus professor of psychology and education at Yale and Teachers College, respectively, is the agent that brought these thinkers into a single room over and over again in an effort to nudge a national understanding of what the troika of assessment, teaching, and learning needs to be if we, the United States, are to be the global social reformers that we at least say we are. Essentially, the report will discuss the need to know, the need to engage the learner as if they are complex systems, not an automaton, because obviously we are, in fact, complex systems. This is the thread that connects the most progressive thinking of the 1900s relative to education, the college-bred Negro, the Negro Common School, to the most progressive present thinking around education. It begins with the humanity that is the person. Take care of the person by knowing him and her in a way that allows for an educational treatment that is best fit to the individual, aiding him or her at best in furthering their democratic impact within and through the great experiment, and at least allow for the bolstering and fruitful application of one's intellective competence rather than simply measuring through stale inventory and intelligence quotients. This understanding, this education, a responsive and dynamic orchestration, as my mentor, Professor Gordon, might explain, of information about the individual to the teacher in an effort to get the best from a cyclical relationship is important. Du Bois, in his work around education, was informed by a holistic view of the individual across a variety of contexts with a respect for the gravity of what each construct offered individually and interdependently. So then the Negro Common School and its presentation of the 79.9% of the Negroes in the United States as illiterate in 1870 is an indicator of this century's dilemma with respect to education. It portends our current dilemma. As Du Bois explains, the mass ignorance existed too by the nation's own will. The United States proceeded deliberately to import a mass of Negroes and to train them into ignorance. We continue to do this willfully or not, beyond the confines, though also particular to race, when we refuse to look at the systems that train but do not educate. The behavior of the individual I consider as key, but it's also important to understand context and to formatively and summatively appreciate the individual context interplay. Du Bois provides an important blueprint that remains exhaustive in its example, and our responsibility now is to explore the messages of this prophet to make right our communities through a specialized, dynamic education that is both our birthright and that is braided into our cultural DNA. How many minutes do I have? Give me 2.
You've got 2 right now.
Oh, great. Oh, wonderful. All right, so how's everybody?
All right.
One of the things that I think is so important, the thing that I talk about is the Gordon Commission, obviously, in those prepared remarks. Professor Gordon is, like I said, a 91-year-old disciple of Du Bois. They were friends, they hung out together, and you see the emphasis on the whole person, and most importantly, on understanding who we as black people are in the work that he does that is a default extension of who W.E.B. Du Bois is. In the work that I do as a personality psychologist, I think it's so important to know and to be aware, not to just be familiar, but to understand. So a lot of the work that I do deals with engaging who we are presently. There are 2 important things. I'll do one plug. I'm the site director for Morehouse's Pan-African Global Experience Program, where we go to Ghana every summer. I've gone with them for the past 3 summers, and we engage and redefine and love who we are and where we've come from. That is tremendously important. So if any students or any professors here are interested in having students go to Ghana this summer, please send them my way through the MPage program. My email address is drice@morehouse.edu. Secondly, what I think is profoundly important is not only do we not love ourselves because of a willful or perhaps unwillful ignorance that we have about ourselves, but also we are scared of ourselves. I think that one of the things that I found in coming back to Morehouse College, where I was a student and where I'm now a professor, is that you see folks who are scared of the black men who are in campus, who are in the professional. That's inexcusable. For you to be scared to say to someone, pull your pants up, don't curse in public, lower your voices, put your phone away, don't be disrespectful to that person. For us to be scared to interact with one another in that way in our home on the Atlanta University Center is inexcusable. And we all have to figure out how it is that we're culpable in those ways. I also say that it's important to, and hopefully we'll get to this through question and answer in some way, to engage what it is that the narratives of today's black folk are. It's not singularly within the media, but certainly as somebody who studies the media and who likes media, there are narratives, particularly with respect to black males, that are articulating who they are and that represent the 21st century's invisible man, because we engage just the outside or the surface of who black males are, but we don't dare to see what it is that they are saying to us or to authentically engage, which is a paramount point that Du Bois teaches us.